Greetings and welcome to the 80th episode of Retro Rant. Time for yet another text adventure, this time quite a recent game as well, Donum, for the Spectrum 128K, released by Bitfans, not to be confused with OnlyFans. Okay, this is a game that ticks all the boxes for me. Retro computer, check. Text graphic adventure, check. Horror theme, check. And if you're a regular of this channel, you already know of my unending quest to discover playable text adventures in the 21st century, although my reviews so far haven't yielded exactly encouraging results. Nevertheless, I couldn't possibly be wrong this time as well, so I purchased this game immediately after release, and I couldn't wait to sink my teeth into this text adventure, immersing myself into this horrific world. Oh boy, was I in for a treat! You have found a strange box in your garden, and somehow this thing has affected your dreams. Yes, gardening is a very dangerous occupation, so let this be a life lesson to you, dear viewer. Never pick up strange boxes from your garden unless they have the Amazon logo on them. Anyway, your dreams have become nightmares now. Some weird creatures, the Gudomer, force you to play some sadistic games in which you have to escape every night so that you don't become a slave to those lover boys. I actually loved the premise of the game and I got some strong Clive Barker vibes from it, so everything looked very, very, very promising. And I have to admit, the graphics of the game are just astonishing. The lack of color fits the game and the atmosphere of the game perfectly, and the various locations and character portraits are superbly and lovingly drawn. The presentation is also top-notch, and the whole game is truly a feast for the eyes. The music is also fantastic, and this has to be my second favorite AY horror soundtrack, bettered only by the tour de force that is Orion Prime. There is also a great variety of tracks, each and every one of them being of top quality. When you purchase the game, you also get a copy of the full soundtrack, and I simply loved this. So the game gets top marks for both music and sound. But gameplay is king, so let's see if Donum plays as well as it looks and sounds. Imagine being offered a fancy box, which looks and feels brilliantly made, and you open it only to discover that it is empty. That is exactly my feeling when playing Donum. The game looks like a text adventure, and it might fool you that it is one. It most certainly did fool me, but in reality it is a glorified maze game, and it is a well-established fact that adventure gamers simply adore mazes, especially repetitive, pointless ones. You see, the locations are mostly empty. The text descriptions feel samey and random, and there are some invisible borders which, if you cross, you simply die. You can only hope to navigate this thing if you make a map yourself, as if old-school dungeon crawlers weren't painful enough. You can figure out the deadly areas through the all-time favorite of trial and error, die and retry, because there is no indication that if you go in this direction, death is imminent. And the text descriptions mostly deal with some urgent need for a room freshener, since most of the rooms stink as much as the gameplay. If that weren't enough, you have a limited amount of moves to escape each dream, which I guess was added to create a sense of tension, but it ends up only being silly and annoying as you wander around endlessly, haunted by the silly, smelly feet descriptions. If you are lucky and or meticulous in your search, you will find an item or a clue, and then you have to find the place to use it. Yes, you have your map, so it should be a breeze. Well, sometimes it is, but other times there is a jerk that teleports you to a random place and you have to reorient yourself. The text parser isn't that great either. I have definitely seen worse, although not by much, but there were quite a few times that it was obvious what I wanted to do, and it was indeed the right solution, but the parser stubbornly refused to cooperate until I used the exact wording that it could accept. There are thankfully some abbreviations for navigation as well as for looking, examining and the inventory, although you will not be doing much of puzzle solving in this one. NPCs are also non-existent in this game, and after a while you would rather talk to the stench that is following you around the place. The text descriptions are quite rudimentary and get annoying after a while, since they tend to repeat randomly in the various empty rooms. There are some suspect translations, since the game was originally made in Spanish. The text font is one of the most painful to read, and the most horror I received from the game was when I was trying to understand the numbers, although there is a quasi-helpful entry in the game's short but well-illustrated manual. Yes, I get that they were trying to enhance the game's atmosphere through the use of these fonts and numbers, but maybe the developers could have directed the effort in creating a fleshed-out game first instead of a fancy Sultan's Maze. And I have to admit here that I would much rather be playing Sultan's Maze than this thing. Or at least have the option to choose some normal fonts. The game surprisingly won an award from Planeta Sinclair for the best text adventure game of 2022. So I dread to think what the other entries of the year were, or maybe the judges based their rating on the fancy presentation. I guess our definitions of what constitutes a text adventure are wildly different, let alone a good text adventure, or maybe we played a different game altogether. Overall, Donum is one of the most, if not the most wonderfully looking and sounding text adventures I have ever played, but it easily gets the Rant award of the most hollow text adventure of all time. At least I got an awesome soundtrack. If you want to play a decent adventure on your Spectrum, you can try Some Maya. So that's it for now. Please don't forget to use room deodorizer, and I'll see you next time!